What's going on, guys? This is Josh. Welcome to Treksplained. Here we talk about Star Trek and drink. Please like and subscribe after the video if you enjoy it. Now, without further ado, let me Treksplain something to you. The Drumhead is the 21st episode of the 4th season of Star Trek The Next Generation. It starts out with Riker, Troy, and Worf investigating a Klingon scientist who potentially may have been involved in an act of sabotage. The Klingon denies doing anything wrong, including logging in with his own login information. After the investigation, Worf escorts the Klingon to his quarters. The Klingon tries to bribe Worf to let him escape. An innocent person wouldn't be talking like that, you patak. Worf attacks him and warns him that they will find out the truth. Then, the Klingon High Council will put him to a slow death. After the credits, we see that retired Admiral Nora Sati has come aboard to try and help with the Enterprise and figure out the supposed conspiracy. She brings aboard two aides, Sabin from Betazoid and Nell Tor from Delb 2. Picard welcomes them aboard at the transporter room and they get right to work. They head to engineering. There, they meet Geordi LaForge and Data, and they talk about the engine room. There is a radiation door in place, and they can't get in to inspect the warp reactor just yet. It'll be 49 hours until radiation returns to normal, but they show her the visual log. It shows the explosion in the dilithium chamber of the warp reactor. Thankfully, nobody was hurt. After that, Sati says she should get a full briefing before any further investigation is conducted. In Picard's ready room, he talks to Sati over tea about the potential Klingon-Romulan connection with this sabotage. It's a disturbing connection, but she's just focused on the current incident for the moment. Worf comes in and determines the way the Klingon scientist Jadan was able to transfer secret information off of the Enterprise. A hyposyringe to treat Balthazar syndrome. He can encode digital information into amino acids and inject someone else with it. The body is the conveyor of top secret files. Sati is impressed with Worf and wants him to conduct the interrogation when the time comes. The time comes, and Worf begins conducting the information and is able to break Jadan with the hyposyringe. Jadan states the Romulans are strong and worthy allies, but he still claims he didn't damage the dilithium chamber. He just transferred the schematics. Still suspicious. The Betazoid, Sabin, believes Jadan though, which means someone else is involved. In Sati's quarters, again Picard and her have tea. The possibility of a larger conspiracy is a frightening one. Sati has started liking Picard, even though she usually hates partnerships. They talk about her dad, Judge Aaron Sati, how great a man he was. Simultaneously, in a briefing room, Worf and Sabin talk about the potential conspiracy. Worf has their complete confidence and wants to begin interrogations of other people. We're counting on you, Worf. The first interview was Beverly Crusher, which is a pretty minor role for this episode. They found out the injections at first were done by one of her assistants. Next up, her assistant, Simon Tarsis. They began interrogating him. His paternal grandfather was Vulcan, but otherwise, he's human. He talks about sometimes doing the injections for Jadan. They excuse him. Then Sabin says he's lying. Unknown what the lie is, but it could be this is the guy they've been looking for. Sati and Picard return to his ready room and talk about this latest discovery. Picard says he won't permit any bad action against Tarsis solely on Sabin's feeling. Sati compares it to Troy, and maybe Picard should reevaluate that behavior. They debate about it, but Picard says he won't treat a man like a criminal until there's way more evidence. LaForge interrupts over the intercom. He asks them to come to the engine room. They arrive, and find out that the hatch frame was going to break anyway. It was just a faulty part. The explosion wasn't sabotage. It was just an accident. In the briefing room, Picard discusses it with Sati and her people. Worf pipes up about continuing the Tarsus investigation. Picard grants it, but wants things to finish quickly. Picard enters into the courtroom where Tarsus is going to be interrogated with spectators. Riker is going to be the counselor for Tarsus. They ask Dr. Crusher if Tarsus and Jadan were seen outside of sickbay. What's the point? So they begin investigating Tarsus in full. After a while, they break him because his grandfather is actually Romulan, not Vulcan. So Tarsus is a straight-up liar. He pleads the fifth, and the court is on hold for now. Later in the briefing room, Worf is coordinating with the security staff to try and track Tarsus's back. Like all his background. Everything about him. Picard enters and doesn't like it. He asks Worf to speak with him. They talk about how this is a Drumhead trial. A show trial, pretty much. Picard doesn't like what we have become and walks out the door. Picard invites Tarsus for tea in his quarters and just talks with him. Tarsus is upset. With reason. He had nothing to do with anything that happened. But he did lie about his grandfather. But for reasons. Romulans are enemies of the Federation. He might have been denied membership into Starfleet. So he lied. And now he's going to pay the price. Later, Sati and Picard talk again off the record. Picard wants to stop everything. The whole trial against Tarsus. They're hounding him. Sati talks about her sole purpose in life is to preserve the Federation. Picard still says the hearing will stop. She says, no they won't. She'll investigate everyone. Admiral Thomas Henry is coming to oversee everything from now on. Picard makes one last plea, saying it's unethical and immoral. He'll fight it. She says, do what you must, Captain. Later on the bridge, Picard is delivered a summons to appear before the court. He's gonna be interrogated now. The hearing begins the next day. Picard begins making a statement. How terrible a trial and situation this is. Sati disregards his pleas and states how many times he's broken the Prime Directive. They talk about one particular incident where he was supposed to transport a Vulcan diplomat, but she ended up being a Romulan. Why didn't he attempt to recapture? The Enterprise might have been captured. Sabin almost gets killed by insulting Worf's father, but Picard tells him to stand down. You're lucky, bitch. Then they talk about Picard's experience with the Borg. Picard rubs his head like, seriously, bitch? Then he quotes Sati's own father. You know, there are some words I've known since I was a schoolboy. With the first link, the chain is forged. The first speech censured. The first thought forbidden. The first freedom denied. Change us all irrevocably. Those words were uttered by Judge Aaron Sati as wisdom and warning. The first time any man's freedom is trodden on, we're all damaged. Sati snaps and explains how she'll bring down Picard no matter what. She's brought down bigger people than him. Admiral Henry walks out in disgust and calls a halt to all further proceedings. Sati has essentially ended her own career with her outburst in shame. Later, Worf and Picard talk about how they were both fooled by Sati's good intentions. We must always be vigilant against such people. That is the price we must all continually pay. That's all for today's episode. Thanks for watching Treksplained. If you liked today's video, please drop a like and subscribe so you get updates on new videos. See you next time on Treksplained.